Good afternoon, Howard Wiig, Code Green ThinkTech Hawaii. I have as my distinguished guest today, Ryan Sullivan, architect with Group 70, one of the largest architectural firms in town and a very prestigious one at that. And just a little side note, the founder and president and, well, no, I guess he's no longer CEO, Francis Oda, and I went to high school together. And just a little side note of why Group 70 is so successful. He and I took a drafting class together in high school, and some of us would get to school early, and we knew one window didn't lock, so we'd pry open that window, crawl into the classroom, and we would work on our mechanical drawings before school actually started, because the instructor was an incredible stickler, and he would literally get a magnifying glass and look at our drawings, and if we were just a fraction of a millimeter off, boom, there goes the red pen around that section. And we were always striving for 10s, and the only person who ever got a 10 was Francis Oda. And that is probably the secret to his success for Group 70. Little historical sideline there. Anyway, guest today is Mr. Ryan Sullivan. He's you're not yet a principal architect.
Not yet.
There. He's working his way up to principal architect. But he and two others within Group 70 came up with the idea of reimagining the bus. We know from the headlines, the continual headlines, that there's a terrific need for alternate low-cost housing, and in this case we could use alternate structures or alternate vehicles, literally, for other uses as well. And they've come up with a very innovative solution here, and that's what we will be focusing on today. Ryan, incidentally, is a local boy, went to architecture school at USC, not a bad institution, banged around being an architect in Southern California for a while, and then came home to Hawaii and married a semi-local girl, and they're the proud parents of a 4-year-old. So, Ryan, why don't you start with the genesis of this project? How in the world did it start? This is a rather original project, yeah.
Yes, thanks, Howard. Jun Yang, who's the executive director of the Mayor's Office of Housing, actually approached Mari Kim, one of the partners in our office, and he is tasked with finding solutions for homelessness and affordable housing. And it was actually his doing to come up with this idea. He had these buses that he knew through contacts in the city that were sitting in the lots that were no longer being used because their lifespan was officially done with. And they're still in running condition, so he was asking if we would be willing to come up with some sort of ideas to think outside the box, if you will, and if there was a way that we could repurpose these buses to give them another life, because they were still in perfectly working condition, and as architects know, the building envelope is the most important part of a structure, and these buses are a perfect building in that sense that they've already come assembled with that building envelope intact, so shelter from wind and the rain. So we were tasked with coming up with a design to reconfigure the interior of it to make it go from a working bus where you go from point A to point B to becoming a shelter for people that are less fortunate. So Mari approached myself and another colleague of ours in our office, Charles Siu, and along with Reed Mizue from Omizu Architecture, so he's in another firm. And we all kind of came together as a pro bono style group. So this project wasn't really affiliated with Group 70 in a sense. It was more of a grassroots art effort, and just us trying to come together to use our design skills in a way to help the community as best we can. So that's basically the genesis of how this project started.
Okay, and you got your blessing to use your time from Charles Kaneshiro, the acting president now?
Yeah, that's my boss.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're actually doing this on our own time. So
Okay.
it's kind of our way of giving back to the community.
Sure,
Trying
yeah.
to find solutions. We do this on the weekends after hours.
Mhm.
We make up our time, so it's
Good, good, yeah,
fruitful.
yeah. Those of us who are among the fortunate definitely should be looking after the less fortunate here. So are we ready to bring up the first slide and
Yes.
see what in the world you're coming up with here? And incidentally, here's the first slide here.
Yeah, so this is just excerpts out of the a pamphlet that we made, kind of executive summary, if you will. And we just wanted to get people thinking outside the box and to think, what could a bus be? Could it be a bedroom? Could it be a marketplace? Could it be a school? And we are trying to come up with solutions that not only transform this bus into a shelter for sleeping at night, which is what we all associate this project with, but how do we also make it a flexible enough space that we can use it throughout the day? Because most of these times, these buses will be used as sleeping shelters for homeless.
And incidentally, the top slide there, I gather that's somebody's pant legs and their feet crossed over a...
Yes, this is just a fun image we found. We were actually Googling buses that were converted into sleeping rooms, and that was an image, and that's somebody sitting in a skylight of a bus, and that's their bedroom below. They converted a bus. So we did a lot of research, and this has been done throughout the country and the world, and we kind of just want to start off with some working knowledge of options that we would be able to do, because none of us are vehicle designers, so we're all just architects. We're used to working with buildings. So when we got this, we were a little bit, it was a little daunting knowing that how are we going to transform a vehicle to make it into what we want it to be. So then we started thinking about
Here's another example.
Solutions of what this bus could be. And aside from the sleeping shelter, which we talked about for evening, the outside the box thinking was a mobile art school, a mobile market, a mobile gym, a mobile restaurant, or even a mobile barbershop. So the idea behind this is since we have this mobile platform that we have, it's very unique in that we can bring these services to underprivileged areas. There's talk of schools that have art, they lost their art program. So we've been working with some artists who said they'd be willing to, donate their time and bring art classes to these schools. So, the bus would pull up to the school itself and would have all the supplies within it.
Wow.
And they could, have the kids learn. And it's just a nice way to have another option for the bus during the day when it's not being used for sleeping shelters. Also, another idea was this mobile market where there's a lot of areas where, it's hard to find fresh produce, farmer's market style, and we could somehow bring these services to these people. It's just another way to kind of help out.
Yeah, during the daytime, and that's when a market or a school is needed. And then there would be a pretty hefty conversion process at night, though, wouldn't there, to get that back into a...
I'll show you later on in the talk about how we plan on doing that. But this is still in our big idea stage. So we're just like, everything is on the table, brainstorming what could we do to make this project most efficient.
So what are these other lower images here then? One says a restaurant on the left.
A mobile restaurant. I think the way that our spaces are designed is that the interior can be basically gutted out during the day and just becomes one large space. And you can bring in tables and chairs, and it wouldn't be a food truck, of course, but you could bring in food and have people eat in a sheltered environment. A mobile gymnasium it's for the same kind of idea as an art school for underprivileged kids in schools that don't have this program. They can bring, and this actually images of the tumble bus, which is an example that we looked at.
What in the world is that?
A tumble bus?
Yeah.
It's basically a school bus that they retrofitted to, they padded it, and then they padded it on the inside, and they have all the different, the working, so the kids can go in there and, do their tumbling and their gymnastics.
Oh, I see.
It's kind of and this is an actual concept that's in use today. So
where is that being used?
They had one locally, and it's definitely national. So
interesting, yeah, because I can see Europeans or South Americans or whoever using this type of thing too. Yeah.
And one of the things I always liked was the mobile barber shop. I think it goes hand in hand with the hygiene. We'll talk later about the two types of buses that we're proposing, but I think it kind of goes hand in hand with the hygiene bus, where if you can give people the opportunity to get a haircut, as simple as that, it helps them infinitely. Help their
It makes them
self-esteem.
feel neater and, less bedraggled. Very interesting. So where in the world did all these ideas come from?
I think it was just the process of the four of us sitting down and just brainstorming. We did a lot of research online. We just that's how we work in our office. We sit down in a charrette, we just get a bunch of pens and trace out, and we just there's no bad ideas, everything, just throw everything on the wall and see what sticks. And we probably threw out about 30 ideas, and these are probably the ones that, kind of resonated with everybody.
So that same creative process.
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely. We took that same creative process. That's the only way we know how to design. So we just took that to a different genre, I guess you could call it, from buildings to buses.
Yeah. So that is fascinating that the city actually approached you on this. Any anticipation of future city involvement once plans become concrete? Or
the idea is to have a nonprofit run this, because the city doesn't have the funds or the manpower to staff to run this project. So as far as handing off, the city has a very small operating budget that we can use, but we are relying solely pretty much 100% on donations of time and materials. And we can talk a little more about that later, but we have more than we can use, actually. So it's been a really
now that's an exciting, because this is so unique and it's imaginative, and it's something that people, they can't quite sink their teeth into a bus, but it is really kinesthetic, it's palpable. If they're gonna write a big check, they know exactly what they're writing it for now. And then they can go and look at it and they can knock on it and say, yes, I helped to create this thing. Yeah. So do we have another slide coming up for us here?
Yeah, the next two slides are renderings, illustrated renderings that we did to kind of bring life into the project and get some excitement going. I'll talk more about the graphics later, but this rendering is showing an example use that this bus could be used for, and it's showing the market concept where it would be taken to an underserved area and either donated produce or whatnot can be brought out there and kind of just give people the opportunity to purchase.
Okay. There's so much more to talk just about this one concept, because we all read about one of the big problems of inner cities on the mainland, and they're having a lot of problems, but one is that the residents there don't have access to good, nutritious food like this. So let's take a commercial break and come back and let's really develop this idea here. Howard Wiig, Code Green, ThinkTech Hawaii, back in a flash.
Hi, I'm Chris Latham, and I'd like to invite you to come and watch my show every Wednesday at 3. I'm interested in a variety of issues that have to do with politics and our local business economy. And I'd like to bring on guests who like to talk about everything from technology to social media to what we can be doing to improve our environment. And so I'd like to invite you every Wednesday at 3 to stay and watch my show here with ThinkTech Hawaii. And I'll see you there.
Aloha, how you doing? I'm Gordo the Tech Czar here on ThinkTech Hawaii, where we co-host Hibachi Talk, where we talk about technology and bring in all kinds of cool guests. Also, my co-host with me today is
Andrew the security guy. Thanks for watching. Thanks for watching ThinkTech Hawaii, and thanks for watching Hibachi Talk. We also have Angus.
And you there, lad? It's Angus. I bring in all kinds of wee things. Oh, look, you can see my lips moving.
Howard Wiig, Code Green, ThinkTech Hawaii. My esteemed guest this afternoon, Ryan Sullivan, architect with Group 70. And he and his colleagues have come up with this really, really unique, out of the box, that's such an overused phrase, but in this case, it's out of the bus type of thinking, where it turns out there are a surplus of old buses here in town. The city bus system apparently must retire buses after X miles or X years or whatever, but they're still in good shape. They can still run. I guess you don't want them running stop-start for hundreds of miles every day, but you can certainly use them for other purposes. And we've explored some of them. The latest one we looked at was the sort of the outdoor, not restaurant, but food service area, where you take good, fresh produce to areas that are underserved and generally low-income areas where people don't get access to really good food. And just a side idea that comes to me on that is that a lot of us are blessed with trees. Like I have a huge breadfruit tree in my yard, and other people have mango trees. And during season, there's hundreds and hundreds of these fruits produced, and we don't know what to do with them. This would be perfect for just taking them out to underserved areas like that. But I know we have some more slides to look at here, Ryan. I think you're developing even all the way down to a bedroom type of concept. And yeah, here it is. And we were talking about using the bus for X purpose during the day, and then removing whatever it is, and then re-imaging. What is that ghost sitting on the bed?
That's the way we architects show people in our renderings. But yeah, this rendering is basically showing what the shelter configuration would look like in a nighttime environment. And the idea is that we tried to come up with different solutions to come up with how many beds, maximum number of beds we could get within the shelter. And it seemed to be the magic number was 7. Mm-hmm. And to make this space flexible where it can be used for other purposes during the day was a little bit tricky. So we had to make the idea of those screens that you see kind of with the reeds. Those are privacy screens at night to kind of give you a little bit of a privacy between your neighbor, so your feet aren't right next to the next guy's head. And during the day, those can be put away to open up that space into one big room. But yeah, this rendering is basically showing kind of the nighttime environment. And that was one of the keys, was to get people off the streets. June is really familiar with the homelessness and the homeless population here. And he said something that was really interesting to me, in that the most at-risk individuals are actually the single men. So some usually think of, the families with the kids as the most at risk. But what he said was that the single men are the ones that are less likely to get help from shelters and social services. So that was a really interesting fact to me. More people are more willing to help families with young kids, but it's those single guys. So we configured this bus to be able to hold 7 single individuals, and at the same time you could change the configuration to hold 2 families, or 3 families. So that was one of the key issues we did as well, to try to make it as configurable as possible.
Configurable, I like that word.
Configurable.
Is that a real word? Or?
Probably not.
No, because I think I'm typical, and when I'm looking at the street population, my first thought is women, children, get them the heck off the street. Get them into a semi-stable environment anyway. But apparently it's the single men who really need even more help.
And that was one of the other keys on this, is that this is meant to be a transition between the streets and the actual shelter. A lot of the people in the streets don't want to go into the shelter, so this is meant to serve as kind of a transition waypoint. For maybe a week or so, you would stay in these buses, and then from there you would transition into a more traditional type shelter. And I guess everything is still in concept, so the idea is that people would be in these spaces for short term only. And as we said, it's a bus, so you could drive to different areas around the island, and the end goal is to have a fleet of these. So we're starting with one as a pilot project, kind of a demonstration of what it can be. And we have about 5 or 6 buses right now that are sitting in the lot that are available right now for us. So if the first one is successful, we would definitely try to roll out as much as we can with this momentum that we have right now.
Can you imagine the publicity that you'd get. If you can't, I can, because I'm kind of a media type guy. The media would jump all over this. They'd want to be on the bus with you as you were tootling off to another neighborhood. They'd want to film the guys coming in and see how they're doing. And I imagine you'd need some supervision here, because some of these people tend to be on the unruly side.
Yes, and I think that's where the nonprofits are going to come in. We would have somebody overseeing the bus, and there'd be a set of rules and guidelines that people would have to follow within the bus. And that's definitely an issue. That's partly why the city cannot run this program. It's why we need to team up with nonprofits to hand off the reins to them once these buses are built.
Okay, and I think you have some other slides that develop this idea further here.
Yeah, so these next slides right here are basically, they go from our big ideas down to the, how are we going to actually implement these ideas. And so we kind of narrowed it down to a kit of parts on this slide you're seeing. We thought, as architects, we're not used to, like I said, working with vehicles. So how are we going to do this? So we thought, well, we're used to working with modular pieces. So what if we just kind of gutted out the bus envelope and built these kit of parts to slide in to various pieces of the bus? But that kind of went out the wayside because the bus still needs to be drivable and I believe DOT compliant. So I don't think we were able to just start taking out walls and whatnot to get these pieces in. So we kind of like put that one to the side. If you go to number 2 on the right, or this one.
Here comes number 2.
Oh yeah, number 2. So then we started to come up with maybe a system of attachments. It's something more in what we're used to working with. Unistrut, I don't know if you're familiar with Unistrut systems.
I've heard of it, I don't know what it is.
They're basically metal tubes with holes throughout them so that you can attach various hangers and shelves to them, and they're adjustable.
Sure.
So the idea is to kind of go with a vertical and a horizontal system. That gives us the greatest amount of flexibility. And we had some ideas of like kind of a Murphy bed type systems, kind of folding up into the walls when they're not in use and folding down when we need them, as well as just looking into how do you furnish small spaces, because we're trying to maximize this space. And as we go to number 3.
So do I see a double-decker concept there too?
Yes, in this initial concept we had this. So we were thinking kind of almost like a submarine style, I guess, sleeping quarters. And then for number 3, you kind of looked at adaptability. So this kit of parts, the system attachments, how would it work? Would the beds fold down, exposing the windows? Do you fold them up to become sunshades? Do we keep the storage overhead? Do we make new storage? Does the bed frame double as a desk when not in use? So a lot of different ideas were thrown around.
Yeah, this would help in not having to extract everything. Say in the morning after it was a sleeping area, take everything out, put a new use in, and then at the end of the day, take everything else again, and
we tried to make everything just kind of fold up, kind of like a transformer of sorts, if you will. And we actually came up with a different solution for our final one, which we'll go over a little bit later. But the last one on this page is basically a green wall. And that was kind of a out there idea that we had, maybe just, what if we could bring beauty to wherever the bus is at? The bus might not be in the most beautiful location. I mean, it might be surrounded by buildings, concrete, and derelict. So we can bring the beauty with us. This green wall it's a pretty common detail in technology nowadays. So it could hang on the side of the bus. It could be edible herb garden that could be used by the users. It could be part of the farmer's market. So that was definitely an idea. But you had to take it down when you drove.
But it would be drivable. You deconstruct it and then drive it off to the next spot. Wow, what a concept.
Just some of the ideas we threw out.
Yeah, especially if it were edible.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, because green walls are coming more and more and more into vogue. We've had green roofs around for many years, but especially in Europe, from what I read, I'm seeing more and more green walls coming up.
Yeah.
And some of the more innovative design centers like Portland, Oregon, are exploring that very, very closely. But I've never seen a green wall applied to a low-income concept.
Yeah, we're just trying to, you know, beautify the area and make it not feel, we want people to want to come to this place. And to be drawn to it.
Mm-hmm. And it actually cools the area down a little bit too because of transpiration.
Mm-hmm.
So you're just so full of ideas. I know we have some more slides coming up here.
Yeah, so this is our basically our final design of what we came up with. And just to reiterate, we did decide to go with the multi-purpose space. So these are just kind of some images of spaces that we were envisioning. Kind of have to use your imagination inside of a bus, but.
So what are we looking at specifically here?
It's tying back to what we looked at earlier with a mobile classroom unit, a mobile arts and crafts, or even like a preschool. There's some places where you wish, you know, you have a lot of young children who do not have homes, and it'd be nice to just give them a space that they can go into for a couple hours a day and experience, you know, just a sheltered environment, and that's one of the ideas, as well as the barbershop idea again, which I really liked. And if you go to number 6, this is kind of showing the example of the flexible plans we talked about earlier. So we can hold up to 6 individuals in here. We can set it up by partitioning it off. We could have like 2 separate families because there's a back door and a front door. You could, there's talk of some of our nonprofit partners are thinking maybe they can use it to house a homeless family for a couple of weeks while they build them a new house. So it's definitely a lot of different, that was the key, I guess, in this project was flexibility and options that we can, you know, reconfigure the space in any way that we needed to, because we don't know what the future will hold. We don't know the type of users that are most going to frequent this project. So we definitely want to keep all our options open. And this slide right here is basically showing kind of, this is the bones of our final design. We decided to go with a raised flooring platform system as opposed to having the beds fold down from the walls like we were showing earlier. The idea behind this is that this is more cost effective. It's basically 2x4. This is showing like kind of some shoji type examples, but ours is a little more utilitarian. We would have plywood panels on the ground, and we have these kind of polyurethane plastic pedestals that it sits on. So there's about a 6 to 8 inch gap between the floor of the bus and our raised platform. And the idea is that the beds would actually store inside of those cavities during the day. So when we need to use it during the day for those flexible spaces, like as far like a barbershop or a classroom, for instance, the beds would just all hide underneath.
That's a very Japanese concept.
Yes,
you know, you
definitely.
take your futons down in the morning and tuck them into somewhere. Yeah.
And also storage in there too. So it's kind of a 2-for-1 space in that sense.
Yeah.
And the other idea behind that is we were gonna kind of coat the bottom of the bus with a truck bed liner coating underneath that raised platform. So we need to like clean off the bus. You just raise all those platforms up and just hose it down. Wow. So kind of trying to make it really, you know, utilitarian and easy for whoever the nonprofit will be to, you know, run this cheaply and effectively.
Just get a high impact hose going there and choo. Wow.
So that was basically what our final design came up with. So we'll see in the final drawings how we're implementing that.
Okay, well, we need to take a break, but one thing I want to talk to in our final segment is ventilation. How do you ensure that all these inhabitants get a continuous supply of fresh air? But in the meantime, time for a break. ThinkTech Hawaii, Code Green, Ryan Sullivan, Group 70, back in a 1 minuto.
Hi, I'm your host on ThinkTech Asia, Bill Sharp. I look forward to you joining us each Monday between 4 and 5 o'clock when we film right here in our studio in downtown Honolulu. The show, ThinkTech Asia, focuses on contemporary events in Asia. And by Asia, we mean anything from Hawaii, south to Australia and New Zealand, west to Pakistan, and as far north as the Russian Far East. Clearly, this is one of the most economically dynamic centers of the world, and we bring you up to date on what's going on in a whole host of countries in this very vital region. We look forward to seeing you. Aloha.
Hi, I'm Ethan Allen. I host Likeable Science on ThinkTech Hawaii, and I do this because I care about science literacy in Hawaii. I want to spread the understanding science is a vital and interesting part of everyone's life. I want to make sure the broadest possible spectrum of people understand the beauty and the value of science and realize that science plays out each and every day of their lives. I want you to understand that science is fun. So we bring onto this show each week guests who are scientists, from astronomers to zoologists, and we talk about what they do and how they do it. But most importantly, we talk about why you should care about their work, why you should see that their work has value and impact on your life. So I hope you'll join us Fridays, 1 p.m. here on ThinkTech Hawaii. You can watch us via live stream. You can watch us recorded on Olelo, and you can see us each week. We hope you'll join us.
Good afternoon again. Howard Wiig, Code Green, ThinkTech Hawaii. Ryan Sullivan, architect, with the esteemed Group 70. We're talking about a very, very innovative concept which could have implications for helping to solve the homeless problem. As Ryan is the first to say, there's no one solution to the homeless problem, but this could be one of many. And the more we talk about it, the more promising it looks. I was just asking Ryan, you're going to have a lot of people in a small space. They exude body heat and they exude CO2, carbon dioxide. You need to move that air around. And you're saying, for one thing, all buses we've noticed have those ventilating sort of skylights up, and you've been in buses where they popped open, and by George, they work. And then we talked about the fact that bus windows, even though we may think of them as being immobile, they can in fact open, either slide or pop open. Plus, you're going to have a rear door and a front door. Ideally, in Hawaii's climate, you would leave those open too. So you are going to get adequate ventilation, and the more ventilation you get, the cooler you feel there. So that's pretty well your solution for
definitely the idea that we're
Yeah.
going for. So it's a easy, low maintenance, low cost solution to ventilation, as opposed to doing an AC unit. I think a lot of it's going to be rely on where the location of the bus is parked, and even the orientation of the way the bus is parked, so you get a nice cross ventilation. So yeah, it's definitely the idea that we were going with, was to just use what's already on the bus.
Yeah. And as an AC kind of guy, I would say forget it. The complications would be endless there. So we've only got a few minutes left. I know we have some more slides here. And this next one looks very, very intriguing. What in the world is going on here now?
So this is just showing an example of the graphic wrap that we would propose. We want the bus to to have a presence when it pulls into an area. We want it to be uplifting. We want people to be excited when they see it. We don't want it to look like something that everyone doesn't want to see come around the corner. So that's how we came up with the color. And the palette that we used was kind of a plant palette. And the idea behind that was basically just the metaphor for plants, the growth of a plant coming up. And yes, so that was, and the idea would be to, we're trying to partner with some people we work with as far as graphic wraps for buses, and we feel that it can be done pretty inexpensively. And the windows would be covered so that you have privacy for obvious reasons.
Yeah, I know in a couple of slides later, we'll be talking about lava May. Maybe that's the ultimate there.
Yes.
But here's lava May. Yeah.
So yeah, lava May. So we talked a lot about the shelter bus, and that's the low-hanging fruit. That's the one that we're going to propose to pursue rather quickly. Actually, we have a lot of volunteer labor. We have actually too much volunteer labor, so we don't know how we're going to figure this out. How many people can you fit in a bus at one time? As well as a lot of material donations. The building industry, when they heard about this, they kind of all jumped on board, and they're more than willing to donate their time and labor and materials. So it's a really uplifting experience to be a part of this whole, everyone coming together and excitement over this.
Beautiful. That's great news.
Yeah. So the other bus idea that June actually proposed to us was a project that he saw in San Francisco, and it's called Lava May, and it means shower me, I believe, in
Oh, yeah,
or bathe me
lava
in
or
Spanish.
something like that in Spanish, yeah. Well, of course, we think of lava in a different
Yeah.
context.
And so they are the pioneers on this, and they've been running this system for a few years now, and they were very helpful. We actually called them and talked to them directly, and they were very generous with their time, and they gave us all their plans. We explained to them that we are architects and we don't know how do we put this bathroom and a shower inside of a bus. So
Yeah,
we were kind of
that's an
like
engineering
deer
problem.
in the
yeah.
headlights. So, and they were in the same boat when they started. So they did a lot of trial and error, and they were more than willing to share, happy to share with us what their final outcome was. And that was a great blessing. And we actually talked to their architect, Brett Terpeluk, in the Bay Area that actually did their bus design. And the interesting thing is that this bus, I mean, it was a lot of trial and error. They thought they had a way to do something and they figured out it wasn't going to work. So they spent countless hours and attempts trying to get it right. And it looks like they pretty much nailed it, and it's working wonderfully in San Francisco. And we're hoping to also be able to do that here in Honolulu. But there's a lot of hurdles we would have to do to get this to work. Just,
Sure.
for instance, how do you dispose of the black water? All the
Yeah, if you had toilets in there, yeah.
Yeah, so if we look at these plans, this is a plan of a sleeping bus. So yeah, we came up with actual CAD plans, and these plans are to be used to be built off of. We had Swinnerton Builders do the cost estimate for us, kind of pro bono on their end. We worked with them a lot, and they do a lot of good cost estimates. So they kind of told us how much we were looking at, because we had no idea when we first started. Like, we just had all these big ideas. Can we even afford this? So they gave us good cost estimates, and if we were not relying on volunteer work and donated materials, it would be pretty costly to do these two types of buses. But because of the volunteer and the generosity, it's actually doable.
So this Lava May, I gather it has both a shower and, let's see, a shower, a sink, and a toilet facility.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the nice thing about, they actually book this for like 15-minute segments or 30-minute segments each day. So you actually have a time when you have your reserved time. So you show up to the bus and there's like a little line, and you have that bathroom for that 30 minutes. You don't have to feel rushed. You can take your shower. And they find that it's been working really well in San Francisco. The homeless population, it gives them a reason to better themselves.
Wow. And so this one is actually up and running in the Bay Area then?
Yes. So they were gracious enough to give us their actual plans, their final plans after all their trial and error of the hygiene bus. And we've incorporated that. And so when that time comes that we try to build this second hygiene bus, we will definitely consult with them again. But a lot of it is going to be how do we run it in Honolulu? I know in San Francisco they had a lot of they had to meet with the city officials to figure out where they could dump the sewer. You have these big storage tanks underneath the bus, but you can't drive with them full, so they have to somehow plug them into the sewage system and empty them out.
That would be a problem because, well, we do have the Sand Island sewage treatment plant, and then there's another sewage treatment plant out in Honouliuli, and then there's another one in Kailua, so maybe hook up with them. Yeah.
I know there's different, June actually pointed out about 5 or 6 areas within downtown Honolulu that have, not downtown Honolulu, but Honolulu proper, that has capacity to possibly do this. So it's something we're seriously looking into, and hopefully we'll find a solution for this, because this hygiene bus is a great idea. I mean, giving people the opportunity to just take a shower. It sounds really, simple and manini, but I think it makes a big difference in the lives of the people.
Absolutely, and they get a little bit of time by themselves too,
Yes.
in a very civilized environment. Yeah.
Just the fact that they can close the door behind them, and have that kind of privacy.
Yeah, and get really clean. What a concept.
And these Lava May buses they're fiberglass shells inserted inside of the bus envelopes, so it's very easy to clean down. It's like it's a seamless kind of fiberglass system, so you can shoot it down, you can clean it. It's
Yeah, again, the very low maintenance concept.
Mhm.
Yeah, because these things are going to get pretty dirty.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just a high-powered hose and.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So those are the two.
Yeah.
Those are the two types of buses that we are shooting
Yeah.
for.
So the shelter bus is different than the hygiene bus,
Yes.
obviously, yeah.
And I guess the ultimate goal for that would be to have both of them, you know, be able to travel side by side. So you could have like 5 or 6 shelter buses parked in an area with one of these hygiene buses located in the center of it. And that could be in a place for a couple of weeks and move on to the next.
Interesting. And did they tell you why they allocated 30 minutes? Because if I were looking at a whole bunch of people who wanted to avail themselves, I would have restricted to 15 or 20 minutes.
I think the idea is that they didn't want, like, people line up for, they go on the wait list for weeks to go on this, so it's a really big deal to them, so they don't want to make them feel rushed. They want them to take their time and enjoy themselves within the space. So I think, and everyone knows what day is theirs and what time to be there, so we don't have a long line of people outside. So, and there's two showers in this, so they can handle 2 people at a time. So
That helps.
one of them is ADA
Compliant there, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I saw a whole lot of room there for the toilet, for
Yeah.
one thing, yeah. So stuff like this is gonna generate a heck of a lot of excitement. And you've said that you've got volunteer support coming out of your ears.
Yes,
Yeah.
we do.
And
We haven't thought about, everybody wants to come in the same time and build, and it's like, how many people can fit in a bus at once? I don't know, 10. We have in the hundreds right now. So we have people contacting us from as far as New Zealand and Australia and East Coast saying that they want to come out and help build. So it's definitely getting international attention almost.
Yeah.
It's pretty exciting.
And then you've got the building industry willing to donate the materials, so.
Yes.
So the final component would be limited funding. We're not talking hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of $1,000s.
Yes.
It seems like we're talking more in the tens of thousands of dollars range.
Yes, just maybe operating costs
yeah.
and just to run the buses after they're built. Building them is one thing, but to keep them, in good shape,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
you need
yeah.
a mechanic to keep them, into top shape. So that's all we're kind of like just kind of feeling our way around right now. It's all really new. And
Sure.
we're hoping to start our build within the next month or so, actually. So
Wow.
it's happening.
And again, you're gonna get a lot of press on this. This is just a real feel-good type story.
Yeah,
Yeah.
hopefully.
Yeah, and look at the papers. It's homeless. Yeah. Now here's a solution. Well, on that very cheery note, we have to close, but I'm going to make a note to myself to invite you and your colleagues back in maybe 1 year or so, because I think we're going to be able to see real live buses out there and see how these dreams have played out in reality and where you go from here. You get a little pilot going, and then that's the start of something big. So, thank you so much, Ryan Sullivan. This has been a really, really exciting visit. And this is ThinkTech Hawaii, Howard Wiig, Code Green, Ryan Sullivan, Group 70. That's POW for now. See you in 2 weeks.